Trevor's unavailable right now, and rather than sit around waiting for him to return, I'm heading out on my own for a series of shorter conversations with authors, creators, and other interesting people. Think of it as a typical no-win scenario episode, just with fewer arguments, less supervision, and no Trevor to stop me. Welcome to No Win Scenario presents Dawn's Away Mission. And don't worry, Trevor will be back soon.
I haven't listened to anything you've said in the last 20 seconds.
Damn it, Trevor. We had a shtick.
Line.
Two friends who hate each other.
Rude.
Talking science fiction.
It has become this cultural phenomenon.
Along with some special guests.
I appreciate what Star Trek did to me.
I would love to have this book get banned.
That wasn't acting. That was real.
Do you know what our YouTube channel is?
Absolutely not. No win scenario.
With Trevor and Dawn.
Okay, we're not doing that.
Boom.
My guest today has been publishing books since the 6th grade, which wasn't that long ago, and she's just getting started at just 18 years old. Shanti I screwed it up, Shanti.
It's okay.
We're not gonna do it, everybody. I was like, I have the notes here. Hershenson, please tell me. No,
yes.
Hershenson. Oh my God, I could have done that, but we're gonna keep this in. Anyway, Shanti she's written nearly 40 books, of which 23 have been published across science fiction, fantasy, and contemporary fiction. You know what? There's no editing. I lied completely. No win scenario. We tell the truth here. Okay. Anyway, her books include Good Kids, Bad Choices, Wolfgang 1, and soon to be re-released Never Dying. She's also the author of You Won't Know Her Name, a novel told entirely in poetry about bullying in middle school, and an anti-bullying advocate who performs her own work at open mic nights. On TikTok, she's built an audience of, more than 50,000. I think I saw 70-something thousand last time I looked. You're gonna tell me how to get more than 5. And on TikTok, she just doesn't talk about books, but she sells them. So I'm very jealous. When she's not writing, you'll find her skateboarding, fencing, or being a regular high school senior. Oh no, not senior. Forget it. You're done being a senior. You're off to college where she's gonna study creative writing. So Shanti, welcome to No Win Scenario. And I'm so sorry I butchered your name.
It is okay. Thank you so much for having me.
As someone with a lot of H's in my last name, I should have done my homework. So I apologize, but we'll blame Trevor, who again could not be here today. All right. So you're on, this show is No Win Scenario, and a lot of your fiction, like you do dystopian standalones and full alien invasion series, kind of drops characters into impossible odds. What pulls you into writing people who are backed into a corner with no good options?
Okay. I think that's, for me, some of, as a reader, that's where it's the most fun. Or, I mean, okay, fun. That's where I connect most with what I'm reading, where I almost feel like I'm a part of the story and I can't get out of it. And like, I just love stories with crazy high stakes, with a lot of tension, and with these characters who sometimes are normal people, sometimes are absolutely not normal people, and who are just in these very impossible, very like devastating situations, and then also have to like remain human and like find their humanity in those situations. So I love at the same time also exploring like the human connection during these impossible times, and then also having a lot of fun writing, trying to get these characters out of these situations with these crazy like battle scenes and escapes. But ultimately, I just think for me, when I'm reading, that's when I'm connecting most with the characters. And if I can really, really care about seeing these characters make it out of the situation, even if I don't know how, then that's when I think something is good.
You are barely out of your teenage years. Why do this? You've been doing this for years. What sort of motivates you to be this prolific?
Oh yeah. So I ultimately, like, it's fun. I have a lot of fun creating new stories. I find it really rewarding. I find that it keeps me sane even when the outside world is very, very crazy. I started when I was in 7th grade writing 1,000 words every single day, because previously I didn't really have a set goal, and I haven't stopped. And so when you're writing that many words every single day for now almost 6 years, it's just like, it's a part of my daily routine. It's like, okay, I wake up, I have breakfast.
Why do it in the beginning though? But why do it in the beginning? Like a 7th grader, why would you do that? Yeah.
So when I was in 7th grade, I started writing my first book. And that first book was called Biome Lock. And very, very, very quickly, I cared so much about this book, about seeing it finished, about seeing it be successful. So yeah, as much as this is something that's really fun for me and something I enjoy doing, it's also something I'm doing because I have these really insane career goals. And I understand that it can be harder to become a famous, successful author than it is to win the lottery. So I'm going to maximize my chances by writing every single day, by constantly creating new work, and yet revising my old work to make sure it's as good as it can be. And then constantly, putting out new works that I can reach new readers, and then hopefully have a chance at actually making a living out of this.
That's amazing. Well, you brought up career goals. Most people, I'm more than double your age, and it took me, I was telling Shanti before we started, it took me like 20 years to get this one book published. But it is rewarding, right? It's addictive. Like once you have it done, you want to keep going. And like, I just came back from a convention where people were buying and talking to me about how they were reading it. And it's so addictive, right? Like you want more and more. So like you're already well past that. You've got a huge following. So what are your career goals?
Question. So I would love to be I would love to be a stereotypical famous author, book signings with lines out the doors, film adaptations, a large fan base, just constant. I think I'm going to end up being the author that writes in a ton of different genres and has a new book coming out like every month. Okay, probably not every month, but maybe possibly twice a year, once a year.
Maybe you should go to some classes in college, but you know what? Maybe
I have to,
at this point, I
have to live my life, so I want to get to like travel the world to share my work. I want to get to work with other people and like teach people. So really, I kind of want everything. And like sometimes when I say like my career goals, I'm like, I want to do everything, but like in this specific domain.
There's got to be something though that drives you. Is it really just the sort of attention you get from this, like to sort of have it all and be, the Andy Weir who has a bunch of books and a bunch of movies about him, or the Brendan Henderson, or like, Ursula K. Le Guin, like all these people, like there's got to be something inside of you that's pushing you forward.
I think ultimately, like, I just want to share my stories with people. And, as much as I love the idea of like being famous, I think more than anything, I just want to reach people with my work. I have found that writing has been something that's really and reading has been something that was really important to me. Like a lot of the time when I was going through particularly difficult things, I was using literature to cope. I would be looking for books and reading them if they had characters that were experiencing things similar to me. And then sometimes also I couldn't find a lot of books that I found relatable. So for me, a lot of the time when I'm writing, particularly my young adult contemporary, but also in my sci-fi, my fantasy, I'm trying to write books that I think other people could be able to both escape in and then also find comfort in. And so that's really important to me, is to give people the same experience that I had with some of my favorite books. And then also, too, at the same time, to write books that can inspire conversations about particularly difficult subjects.
What do your friends and family think about your career at this moment?
I think everyone's really proud. It's really weird because sometimes I'm like, I don't know when this happened. It just kind of happened and it just keeps happening. But I think looking back on it, I don't think my parents were particularly like surprised. I was kind of always the bit of like the weird kid who I would be creating stories when I was a little kid. But I mean, of course, I think it is fairly surprising that it ended up being this crazy. But I mean, it's also amazing. And then my friends, they're all like insanely supportive. I think it's really funny because a lot of the time when I'm making friends, I don't actually tell them that I'm a writer. I kind of like omit that for some reason, mainly because I'm kind of shy. So it's kind of like embarrassing telling people like, oh, I write books, because then people are going to have questions. And I'm like, I don't want to answer those. Then when people find out, they're typically pretty surprised. But then always supportive.
That's great. So we would need about 12 hours to talk about each book. But I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to pick your favorite, which book is your baby? And tell us about it.
Ooh, good question. Okay. My answer depends largely on which book is taking up the most headspace. So right now, okay, ironically, it's not the book I'm writing or even, well, the book I'm editing is great too, but it's not out yet, and it's not coming out for a long time, so it's like there's not a lot I can say about it. So I'm gonna be strategic, and I'm gonna say that right now my favorite is Never Dying. But
coming out 2 days after we record this, but yes.
2 days, yeah. So it's out now. But ultimately, I love Never Dying so much. I spend a lot of time with that series just thinking about the characters. Like, I'll be going through my day and I'll be like, I wonder what Kane and Scarlet would do in this situation.
So tell us about the book, people who don't know.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course. The backstory? So Never Dying is a young adult dystopian novel that takes place in it's kind of a little bit more of a distant future, like a more nearer future than I'd like to think. It takes place in like the 2040s. And it's this retro-futuristic novel, meaning, for those who are unfamiliar, it kind of has a bit more qualities of like retro sci-fi, where sometimes the technology might feel a little bit run down or dated. So it's almost this like past sort of view of the future, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And in this society, people are immortal due to a genetic mutation, and they are hunted down by government operatives known as exterminators. And in this society, we have this character, Scarlet, who is an immortal, and she has been on the run since she was 12 years old and got hit by a car and survived. And pretty much just walked right away, right? And on the other hand, then we have this character, Kane, who he is an exterminator, and he believes with 100% certainty that this is what he is meant for. However, he has a secret, and that's that he's an immortal too. So it's a lot of fun.
So what I find interesting is you're so prolific, but you keep coming back to sci-fi. I mean, you've done other things, but like you keep coming back to sci-fi. What is it about sci-fi for you?
So I think sci-fi has this kind of sort of like, I was going to say magical power, but that's not true. But I think sci-fi is this great sort of vessel to explore things that we are currently worried about or currently experiencing, and to, essentially explore all these very difficult societal problems, yet often looking at it with this like zoomed in lens of the future. So almost we can use science fiction to explore like the hypothetical consequences of our actions, 100 years down the line, 50 years down the line. And it is still like, you can do this in fantasy too, where we're exploring real things that we're concerned about or real things that are going on. And yet with sci-fi, it has this, at least for me, a little bit more of a realistic effort, because often it is rooted in scientific developments. It's rooted in our universe. Though, of course, there's some sci-fi that takes place elsewhere. And yet, even still, you can find these things that, it's not entirely magic. It's like there is this real sort of element to it. And that real element almost leads you to feel like, oh, well, this could happen here.
So when you're starting a story, do you start with that sci-fi element or a character or technology or challenge, or do you start with a specific relationship in mind? Like what's the starting point?
So it largely depends on the book. I have some books where I have like it's a character. I have some where it's like I need this crazy concept and the characters will come later, or this like setting. For Never Dying specifically, it was both the concept and the dynamics between the characters, where originally when I started Never Dying, it was going to be this fantasy. It was going to be like, oh, this is like a high fantasy novel about these people who are immortal, and we're going to have this like couple, and maybe one of them is like an immortal hunter. And then there's this villain who is the only guy who can like kill the immortals, which it didn't work. Mainly because I think sci-fi like allowed me in this space to create the story that feels just a little bit more realistic, where even though we're talking about immortals, like it has this sort of more real element. And also that was what I was most comfortable with. So it was a lot easier to write than high fantasy. And ultimately that's what worked. But yeah, so ultimately it was this concept. And then I wanted there to be a romance between these characters because I was 14. That actually ended up being one of the most important parts of the whole series. So.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead here. What is the hardest part for you? Starting that story or finishing?
I would say finishing.
Consuming the hardest. Finishing. Is that the most consuming the hardest?
I'm going to say the hardest.
Things, right?
Yeah, because time consuming, it's like I spend, because I'm writing every day, it's like I do, I tend to get through it in a timely-ish manner, depending on whether or not I overwrite, because sometimes I have these books where I'm like, this is going on for way too long, and I just have to get through it and then worry about the rest in the editing process. But I think the endings can be particularly difficult sometimes, because I'll be getting these characters in these situations I don't know how to get them out of. I'll sometimes be like, I have all these different threads going on at once, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to tie all of these together and make this satisfying. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I write that ending and I'm like, this is terrible. I need to completely change this whole thing. And other times it just all comes together nicely. But I think more than the ending, that sort of middle of the book can be the most challenging part of the writing process, where I'm just so tired of it. I'm tired of these characters.
I just want it to be done.
Tired of the story. Just let me finish this book and move on to something that's completely different. But I've been through the process enough times now that it's like something I tend to be able to get through, though sometimes it's miserable. I hate it.
I realized that you answered my question, but in my head I should have asked this question. So I'm with you at the end. Sometimes it's the toughest, just to wrap up. But I guess what's harder, starting a novel or like deciding when your edit rounds are done and you're submitting it? Like sometimes, like, I don't know how many edits you do per book, but like with a sentence, I think I did 84 full rewrites or something of the book, which was great, which probably why it took so long. But, so what's your process for the sort of revisions and rewriting, or, are you pretty polished one round?
Revisions, oh my gosh, it can be, I have spent like years revising. I've gone through so many times. It definitely depends on the books. I have some where I'm like, okay, this first draft is arguably clean. Let's work on tightening up some sentence things and making sure just everything's coherent. But I have some books where I'm like, I need to like rewrite this whole thing. I had I have this another novel told in poetry actually called Pontus and Electra to the Depths of the Sea. And that is it's about sharks. And it was also my first novel told in verse, since you won't know her name. And I got a printed copy of the book to edit, and I basically was circling things and being like, rewrite this. And by the end of it, I had pretty much the entire book circled. And so I had to, pretty much on the sentence level, rewrite the entire book. But, typically what I'll do is I'll let the draft sit for a while. I let it marinate. I try not to think about it, just to approach it with a new mindset and approach it not remembering certain things so I can experience it almost like a reader. And then from there, I will reread it. And then I'll work with my editor, where often we edit on Zoom. So we're actively talking about the work as we're reading through it. She'll read through it. I'll even be looking to and seeing if there's things I didn't pick up in the previous round. A lot of the time, this is where we're catching both things. Like I remember a few weeks ago, we were talking and I was like, she's like, it's this sci-fi novel that I haven't really talked about anywhere yet. But there's this
I'll take it.
Yeah, this is an exclusive thing where there's this character who is very much dead set on finding an answer to this thing. It's this whole kind of like mystery. And I spent several pages with him researching this one person. And so, the point she made was like, you're spending a lot of time on this one person. So this is most definitely the person who committed this crime, basically. And I was like, yeah, we just need to shorten it a little bit. So it's a little bit more ambiguous. And then after that, I often, once me and my editor are done, usually I will do anywhere from one more read through, probably not. Usually it's like I have 3 more read throughs. I'll be writing and I'll have it open and I'll be reading. And usually it's more sentence level things and grammar. And then sometimes it's I'm like, oh no, I actually need to rewrite this whole scene now. But yeah, it really depends on the book. Sometimes I find for the books that are the shortest, those are the ones that I'm actively going through 10 times. That said, my longest novel ever, I went through, I don't even remember how many times I was reading that book. I hope I never have to read it again.
You got to come back to it every once in a while. I always tell the story how I went to graduate school for music and for composition. Cool. And by the time we were done with a big work, we were so sick of it. So when the performance came, we didn't want to hear it because we would have done this so much better if we had started now. But you come back to it over time, regardless of what it is. If it's a music or art or book, you see all the flaws when you're in the midst of it. But then it's hard to enjoy it from an outside perspective. But then you can kind of come back to it.
Yeah.
So you said you had an editor. Comes from where exactly? Do you have the same editor for all your work, or?
Yeah, that I've had the same editor since I was 13.
Really?
Yeah, this was I think someone my parents found on like a tutoring website who she's my writing coach, and now that doubles as my editor. So
I keeping her busy. So let's jump over to You Won't Know Her Name. So talk about the genesis of this novel, and why you felt compelled to do this one.
So You Won't Know Her Name, I wrote when I was 13 years old. It was the summer before 8th grade, and this was a really, really strange, really difficult time in my life where back in 6th grade, I had experienced some particularly disturbing and challenging events, and I felt no closure, and more so I was watching this happen to other people. So it was like this was something that was no longer about me, but this was about my school as a whole. And I felt too that I was being silenced. I felt like, my school's administration did not want me to talk about this problem. They did not like that I was a, loudmouth 13-year-old who was going to bring this up. And so I wrote this book. And for the most part, I wrote this book for myself. At least that's how it felt at first. I mean, subconsciously, of course. No, I was writing this because I didn't like that I was being told to be quiet, and I didn't like that no one was listening to me. So I felt that, hey, if I publish a book about it, people are going to have to listen. That said, when I first released this book, it was this really quiet release. I just wanted to put it online to get it off my chest and to be like, hey guys, look, I published a book about it. And very quickly, people started reading the book. And very quickly, this book became something that random people on the internet were reading and reaching out and telling me how they really connected with it, how it reminded them of their own experiences. And then I was like, oh. So not only is this a problem at my school, this is a problem that's a lot more universal.
So actually, it's a good segue to how you actually get your books read and picked up. So what's that look like now? Is it all TikTok?
So it's a combination of a handful of different things, TikTok being a huge one. Because for me, social media is this really easy way to connect directly with the people who are going to read my books, because I write for young adults, and there are a lot of young adults on social media. But also, I do a lot of podcast interviews, for example, where I'm just actively talking about my work. I'm trying to get my name showing up in all of these different places. The more information there is about me on the internet, the better. And also, I do a lot of in-person events. So I'll go out to street fairs, to conferences, to book fairs. I'll do, panels. I'll do solo book signings. And really, I'm just trying to get my books directly in the hands of people. Because if they meet me, they're more likely to read it. And they also might be more likely to enjoy it too, because they have this sort of human connection. I also do a lot of discounted newsletter promotions, where I make my book, 99, a lot of my ebooks are actually 99 cents, but I'll make it either cheaper or completely free, and then I'll have it sent out to mailing lists of hungry readers who really want cheap and free books. And that allows me just to really, even if I'm not necessarily making the most money right away, allows me to get copies of my books and ebooks in all of these different places and in the hands of at least a few readers who are going to read them and leave reviews and then tell their friends and read more books. And then also I do a little bit of advertising. TikTok is actually my favorite place to advertise, but I've dabbled in Amazon ads and Instagram ads.
Great. I highly recommend BookBub as a newsletter thing. They were really good for me. It's good for you that, especially that you're talking to your audience, and you are your audience, which is great. I know for me, with Ascendance, I had a hard time. Like, I wrote this book, I had this idea, I thought it was this like hard sci-fi for like 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds is this. And I finally, I emailed someone who works for me. I texted her this past week, I was at a Star Trek convention selling the books. And I said, I am 100% in on the new adult thing. I was told for years it was either YA or new adult, and it was really new adult book. And I just fought it. And I'm like, I don't think that's my audience. And like 80% of the people who bought were like 20 to 30-year-old women. New adult love that dystopian female character thing. And I'm like, no, this is my audience. I'm with it. It doesn't have to be me kind of thing. So it's good you're talking to your audience where they are, and you're representative of your audience as well.
I will say it's really, because when I, especially with like the newsletter promotions and stuff, a lot of the people who read my books are like older. It's like, really? they're a great audience though. Like people who are, you know, maybe in my parents' age or a lot older, and they're like leaving reviews. They're like really into it. It's like, it's great.
It's great. Yeah, especially you can count on them for the reviews. That's awesome. That's so good. Okay, so that's so great. So you're going off to college to study creative writing. Wait, before I ask this question, I want to go back for a second. I'm sorry. Is there any tension between Shanti the writer and Shanti the marketer and social media person who has to go out and also go out and do stuff? Like, isn't it really challenging to do both?
So I enjoy both quite a bit. I find that marketing is so fun when it's rewarding. When I'm like spending money and all of a sudden I'm getting 0 book sales, that's not fun. But I find the you know, going out and promoting my books to be really enjoyable. I would say, you know, getting to actually sign books and getting to do these like authorly things are some of my favorite parts of being an author. That said, I do have a little bit of tension sometimes between Shanti the marketer and Shanti the writer, where sometimes I have books that I've written that I really want to release, and that I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to market this because it's not as marketable as something like Never Dying. I mean, I'd argue that Pontus and Electra to the Depths of the Sea is, you know, it's my novel told in poetry about sharks. Genuinely might be my best work. If not, it's up there. And yet it's not one of my most popular books because it's just not as marketable because it's a novel told in poetry about sharks. And then also, like that said, I have books like Never Dying that I think there is so much going on and that it's so interesting. And yet I feel more compelled to talk about the romance in the book because that's what people are more driven to read. That's what's more marketable, which is, yeah, it's fair. I love the romance in that book, but I also like the, you know, the sort of authoritarian government and the tensions between, you know, the immortals. And it's all, ultimately though, I enjoy it. But, you know, there are some things where it's like, I just want to write this or talk about this, but I should talk about this instead and write this because it's more marketable.
I love poetry about sharks, and it's good that you do write the things you want to write. Because I tell people, like, when I was querying my book, you know, I was doing it at a time where the only thing people wanted were heated rivalry ripoffs, where it was just like romance and hockey and pirates, and they didn't want this dystopian sci-fi novel that I wanted to get out there. And it was a tough sell, but you find your audience and then they find you, and it's great. So
for sure.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I was going to say you're off to college, you're studying creative writing. You know, what do you think a program in creative writing can give you that you haven't already learned doing so many books yourself?
Question. So I think that first off, it's going to give me this nice space where I can really focus on my writing without having to worry about a lot of different things. Because, you know, for example, like in college, like I'm on a meal plan, I don't have to worry about, well, I'm saying, you know, because, you know, I don't have to worry too much about like having money to get food. And that's a pretty privileged thing of me to say, but, you know, I'm lucky. And so I have this space where I can, you know, I have a place to live, I have food, and I have classes that are specific towards writing, so I can just produce new work. And also, I find there's always something new I can learn. So even if it's like, you know, just there's like little things with like, you know, the sound of my writing that I can improve, or pacing, just like, no matter what, I think, you know, writing is about, you know, constantly improving. So it's just giving me that space. And then also I get to study a lot of books too. And I get to like, first up, not only like dissect, you know, my own writing, but also other people's writings, and really like interrogate like the why behind a lot of different books, and really get to look at all the different choices these authors make in all these different genres, and really then apply that in my own writing. And then also like it'll, I think it'll give me a lot of new connections and a lot of new people that I can, you know, like meet. And then also like I have, you know, lots of spaces to do events, to get out there and share my books, and lots of opportunities to really like blossom professionally.
Well, I am super excited for your career. I hope you come back next year and tell us how many more dozens of books you've written while at college, and we can just shame Trevor for never have created anything. So before we go, how best can people find you, follow you, and do all that?
Okay, so you can find me first off on my website, which is shantihershenson.com. That's ShantiHershenson.com. You can find me on my Instagram, which similarly is at Shanti Hershenson, and my TikTok, which is at Shanti Who Writes. And then all my books are available on Amazon and pretty much everywhere you can buy books online. So if you look, they should come up. If there's only a limited amount of Shanti Hershenson books on a website, you can switch to another one. You should be able to find whichever book you're most interested in on a preferred retailer. And then also, yeah, depending on where you live, you might find them in your local bookstore, in your local library. They show up in places. It's kind of crazy.
It's great. Awesome. Well, congratulations, Shanti. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this away mission. Thanks to our guest and to all of you for watching and listening. Please subscribe on all the platforms, and you can email us at nowin-scenario-podcast@gmail.com. Trevor will return, I promise you. But in the meantime, I think we're thriving just fine without his supervision and snark. See you next time.